Rainbow Six Siege is a multiplayer FPS game which is based on teams of 5. It's an online tactical shooter video game developed by Ubisoft Montreal and published by Ubisoft. The game puts heavy emphasis on environment destruction and cooperation between players. Each player assumes a control of attacker or a defender in a different gameplay modes such as rescuing a hostage, defusing a bomb, and taking control of a capture point. This title has no campaign, but features a series of short missions that can be played solo. These missions have a loose narrative, focusing on recruits going through training to prepare them to future encounters with the Wild Mask, a terrorist group that threatens the safety of the world. Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six Siege is a first-person shooter game in which players utilize many different operators from the Rainbow team. Different operators have different nationalities, weapons, and gadgets. The game features a symmetrical structure, whereby the teams are not always balanced in their ability choice. Players can pick operators from any unit, that is the defender or attacking before a round starts, choosing spawn points as well attachment of their guns, but are not allowed to change their choices once the war has started. In online match, the game gives a 1-minute preparative period with 10 commands wherein the attackers are given control of their other mechanic wheeled drones to scout the map in search of enemy operators, traps, and defense.
Paladins. Paladin Champions of the Realm takes place in a science fantasy dungeon punk world. There are elements of both fantasy and science fiction, including medieval-like soldiers who use ranged weapons such as shotguns and assault rifles instead of swords. In the world of Paladins, there is a conflict between two factions, the Magistrate and the Paladins. Champions were recruited in order to minimize casualties of regular foot soldiers. The champions will be considered special forces as they are more efficient at combat than a regular soldier. Not all champions are committed. However, there were a few who did not pick sides during the war. Rather, they will contract with both, rendering them mercenaries. The rest of these special forces were committed to a faction, either the Magistrates of the Paladins Resistance. There are also minor factions in the game as well, the Abyss, the Thousand Hands, and the Pyre. Paladins provides various characters, called champions, for the players to choose during their game sessions. Each of these champions falls into one of the following categories: frontline, damage, support, and flank. Being a team-based shooter, players must rely on strategy, character knowledge, coordination, and teamwork in order to attain victory. Players may use BGS along with text and voice chat to communicate. A good team will have a balanced choice of classes that will support each other during the game. There are 42 champions in Paladins, 5 of which are available from the start for new players to choose between. Additionally, 4 champions are also temporarily accessible for free on a 2-week rotation. Players can permanently acquire additional champions through purchases using in-game currency.
Fortnite is a massive multiplayer online video game released in July 2017, developed by Epic Games. The game includes 2 different game modes released: early access, Save the World, and Battle Royale. Fortnite Battle Royale is the free 100 player vs player mode in Fortnite, 1 giant map, a battle bus, Fortnite building, skills, and destructible environments. Combat with intense player vs player combat while the last one standing wins. And Save the World is a cooperative shooter survival game with up to 4-man squad, 2 things of hooks and defense mission objectives with fortifications and defense. Fortnite Battle Royale is available on Microsoft Windows, Mac OS, PlayStation, Xbox One, Nintendo Switch, iOS and Samsung Android device, while Save the World is only available on PC and consoles platforms.
Enter the Gungeon is a game that has been created and developed by Dodge Roll and published by Devolver Digital. It was released on PS4, PC, Mac, Xbox, and Linux on April 5 of 2016. Enter the Gungeon is a gunfight dungeon crawler following abandoned misfits seeking to shoot, loot, dodge roll, and table flip their way to personal absolution by reaching the legendary Gungeon's ultimate treasure, the gun that can kill the past. Select a hero and battle your way to the bottom of the Gungeon by surviving and challenging an evolving series of floors filled by the dangerously adorable Gundead and fearsome Gungeon bosses armed to the teeth. Gather precious loot, discover hidden secrets, and chat with opportunistic merchants and shopkeepers to purchase powerful items to gain an edge and kill your past. And in my opinion, I personally like and play this game. I already spent like 75 hours. I already unlocked all the characters and most part of the guns. In conclusion, I recommend this game if you enjoyed those retro arcade games of the 90s.
Diablo is an action role-playing hack-and-slash computer video game developed by Blizzard North and published by Blizzard Entertainment in 2000 for Microsoft Windows, Classic Mac OS, and Mac OS. The game, with its dark fantasy and horror themes, was conceptualized and designed by David Bravik, Eric Schaefer, who, with Max Schaefer, acted as project leads on the game. The producers were Matthew Householder and Bill Roper. Building on the successes of its predecessor, Diablo 2 was one of the most popular games of 2000 and has been cited as one of the greatest video games ever made. Major factors that contributed to the game's success include its continuation of popular fantasy themes from the previous game and its access to Blizzard's free online play service, Battle.net. An expansion to the game, Diablo 2 Lords of Destruction, was released in 2001. Another sequel in the series, Diablo 3, was announced in 2008 and released on May 15, 2012. Diablo Immortal, the fourth installment in the series, was announced during BlizzCon 2018 and is set after Diablo 2 Lords of Destruction. This game includes 5 towns full of dungeons with a final boss on each one, which are Andariel, Uriel, Mephisto, Diablo, and Baal.